Hello Aquarius, welcome to your July reading, and welcome to 7-Star Tarot. This is a reading for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, Venus, or any other placements in your chart for the month of July. I know we're partway through the month of July, but anyway, here we go. So, yes, as you may know, any tarot reading is a holographic representation of a particular portion of the universe. If this is not an accurate map of your universe at this time, then please check out your other placements. It should become fairly clear fairly early on whether or not this is a useful map or an accurate map of your situation. So we had 3 cards come out in the pre-shuffle. I do like to do a pre-shuffle just to give me time to sort of reflect on the energies here. So with 3 cards coming out, we tend to have like a past, present and a future orientation. So we will dig into each of these past, present and future situations. So first up we have the Tower in the past. So the Tower is a structure which we've built in our lives, which is, this one is, I know this camera isn't very good so you can't really see, but there's a tree and the structure is kind of like growing out, like been built upon the tree. So there kind of was a stable foundation here in this tower, where often the tower is something that is built on an unstable foundation, and therefore some kind of act of God or an act from heaven, and usually quite a sudden impact or sudden change in your life disrupts what you thought to be a stable structure or stable foundation. In this case, it's more that something has been built and gradually it's been built on what seemed to be a fairly organic and sustainable base, but then gradually became perhaps less and less functional, or more and more sort of aesthetically dominant, or something that maybe was, so some area of your life, could be relationship, could be work, could be your view, or your philosophical view on life, which Aquarius, as we know, often has a particular philosophical view on life. Yeah, so something disrupted what was thought to be a stable foundation, and something that was built with some degree of care and a lot of emotion, and potentially desires, thoughts of the future, etc., were put into this tower that was then shown to be not stable. And so the tower also counsels to take stock of, after the destruction is over, because this is in the past, so this is something which has already happened, some major disruption in your life, mind, body, soul, to look at what structures are remaining, because those are the structures that have obviously stood the test of time and have the capacity to kind of continue on. And obviously what has been destroyed and what has fallen by the wayside is no longer to be sustainable in your life. So we'll dig more into that in a minute. We have then the 7 of Cups, which is a man looking at a shelf of lots of different cups, lots of different desires, lots of different choices in the heart, in the world of the emotions, somewhat almost too many choices, and some of them are sort of like quite fantastical. So there's a castle, there's a dragon, there's some kind of looks like a zeppelin or a spaceship, there's a heart, and there's a snake, and there's some jewels in one of them. So there's sort of like lots of kind of worldly or otherworldly sort of desires. It's a time of considering many different options. 7 of Cups also speaks to confusion about the different options and which one to choose, or not feeling able to make a decision. Sometimes because of the overwhelming, the apparent overwhelming number of choices available, or potentially, you may feel that there's a wide variety of options available to you if you were only to kind of take the step towards them. But of course, once you do take that step towards each one of them, you then commit to that one, and you have to kind of leave the other ones by the wayside. So to a degree, there's a level of sort of, you may feel uncertain about which path to choose in a particular area of your life at this point. And yes, we will dig more into that in a minute. And in the future, we have the justice, so the weighing out of the scales of justice. And so, yes, the balancing of the. I mean, here it has here it has like jewels with a feather, but actually, normally you think of the justice scales having the heart on one side and the feather on the other, particularly in the sort of Egyptian concept of justice, where I believe it's the goddess Mart, which is the vulture-headed goddess, I believe, or vulture-headed god, who weighs out the soul after death, or weighs the heart, which is a representation of the soul, and thereby determines whether that heart kind of has value. So it's sort of like, I mean, justice is about karmic consequence. It's about looking at the actions that you've taken previously and kind of reaping the benefits or otherwise of those previous kind of actions. So, and justice in the upright is indicating that karmically you will have a sort of like a blessing, or that, it suggests that there is good karma to come. So whatever choice is made, possibly in terms of what is done after the destruction of whatever it was, will be just and fair, and will result in, sort of potentially beneficial kind of consequences. So quite general to start with. We could be talking about any area of your life. So the Tower, what was the Tower about? Let me find out what the Tower was about. So we do have the Seven of Wands and the Queen of Pentacles. So Seven of Wands is about having to stand your ground, feeling as that, I mean, it's about valor in battle, basically. So in this situation where something was destroyed in your life, or something you felt like maybe something was taken away from you, you felt like you had to battle against, a number of different enemies. But you had the higher ground, so you were able to stand your ground. Queen of Pentacles is telling me here that this was with relation to building your wealth, or building your kind of home life, your stability. She's cradling the pentacle very lovingly there, so quite a lonesome card as well. So both of these cards quite sort of lonesome. So it's obviously a battle which you've kind of had to go through yourself, in order to get to a point of being able to be comfortable in your world, to have the things that you need around you. So what was the Tower relating to, though? If the Queen of Pentacles is there, it indicates some kind of financial situation. Okay, we have a lot of cards just come out. So there was obviously great sorrow. We have the Five of Cups. Again, the feeling of that something has been lost, with the cups there spilt out, I think there's some blood coming out of them, or blood and wine, I guess, is spilt out of the cups. So whatever sense of enjoyment you were getting from a situation, say it's a relationship, whatever passion, love you put into the situation, and very much dwelling on the hurt from the past. So, okay, so it looks like what was destroyed was a situation where you're feeling like you're constantly having to fight your battle. in order to have some degree of abundance. And with the tower coming in and it not working, everything falling apart, you then had this sense of grief and loss. Two of Wands, feeling like the world is never enough, wanting to go out beyond one's own world, to step out into a bigger world. King of Wands. King of Wands is a very powerful king. He rules all of the other kings, and he rules them by divine right. So it's about sort of tapping into your own sovereignty. And actually, the Two of Wands really is the same king. But the Two of Wands, in the Two of Wands, the man is he's like a sort of creative, possibly entrepreneur, but more like the Three of Wands is more the merchant. The Two of Wands is like he's a king really, but maybe before he's kind of achieved his conquering glory. So he's almost like the King of Wands in training in the Two of Wands. So it's right at the beginning of the suit, where he's dreaming of the world that he wants. And the world that he has in his hand seems too small, and he's wanting to achieve great things in his life. So it's about wanting to step beyond. So I think you were in a situation that you wanted to move, you were trying to move beyond, constantly feeling like you had to battle in order to do so. I mean, I wonder, is the Queen of Pentacles you here, or is it somebody else? Were you having to battle with someone who was maybe overly committed to material pleasures? And for you with the wands, lots of wands here, obviously like a highly kind of spiritual suit. The wands is about the fire, and the fire is the spirit. So is it that you were trying to lead more of a spiritual life than this person who you're with, who was much more focused on the material, maybe because they didn't have the material things that they wanted, or they needed to build up their material things, and that led to this kind of loss of the feeling of loss, feeling of grief, things breaking down, the tower breaking the situation down, and then subsequently having to move on from this small world that you maybe had been created within this relationship or this situation, and needing to take one's own sovereignty back as an independent sort of monarch of your own life. He's almost like integrated his two wands into a single wand here, so much more powerful. So I think this is a story about growing in power through a situation which caused great suffering, regret and hurt and loss, which was a situation that you had to fight. Fight your ground and maybe fight against someone who was potentially maybe overly materialistic. And then we have the Fool, needing to take a leap of faith and a step forwards into this new realm. So then it brings us to the present. So yes, you obviously had to move away from this situation, to leave this situation behind, and maybe that is what caused this sort of Five of Cups, feeling of sadness and feeling of loss, to a situation now where there's almost like kind of too many options, or confusion in the options. So why is the Seven of Cups here, and what are these options about? What are these options about that the Aquarius is considering? Four of Wands, Hierophant, okay, in reverse, and the Strength in the reverse, okay. So Four of Wands is about stability, potentially marriage, certainly partnership with somebody else. So coming out of this previous situation where things broke down, now considering many different avenues, which is the best avenue to take to achieve stability and happiness, celebration of a stable home life that has stable foundations this time, built on the whatever foundations remain from the tower, keeping what has worked from the past. Hierophant in reverse tells me that you're looking at, as an Aquarius is wont to do, looking at things in a unusual or unconventional is the word, an unconventional way to achieve a level of stability and a happy home life after this difficult ending of a previous situation, which could have been a previous home situation, not necessarily a relationship. Where we're in a situation where the number of potential options or potential avenues that you could take requires you to have a kind of strength of mind, and potentially in the present moment you're finding it difficult maybe to find the avenue towards this kind of Four of Wands. Underlying we have the Judgment in reverse, which is about Judgment in the upright is about and new beginnings, the ending of not just the ending of a cycle, but the beginning of a new cycle. But so the Judgment in the reverse would be about continuing in the same cycle as you're in right now. Maybe there's almost like a sense of that, because in the traditional Judgment card, the people are rising from the dead, almost like if you think about where the dead would have been in the traditional kind of Christian sense, is that when you die you go to purgatory and you await the scales to be balanced, at which point you then will pass into the afterlife or into the next life, into the new world and into your new cycle. So there may be a sense here of almost kind of being stuck in a purgatory or in a state that's between the old world and the new world, so not quite having yet stepped in to the new world. But with the Four of Pentacles, knowing that again you want this sort of stability, and that when you achieve that stability for yourself, you see how the locks on the chains on the gate to the house, you don't just want to let anybody in. You need to kind of, there's a feeling of having to guard what is yours, and feeling of having to preserve what is left of your way of life, or the resources, or the things that contribute to your stability. I think this Seven of Cups card is almost about considering what things currently contribute to your stability and your happiness, and how, looking at things from an unconventional way, you can find a way of moving forward that will help you to be strong and stable. Okay, that's an interesting little sequence there. So let's take from the Light Seers for this. I'll have another different deck. So in the Justice, what is the Justice doing here? So we seem to be almost in a kind of between world state, but we know that we want to create a reality that helps us feel strong and probably to move beyond the past and to step into the future. So what does the future have in store for us? Which is a fulfillment of karmic justice. So we have the Star. We have the Eight of Wands in the reverse. We have the Ten of Swords. We have the Queen of Cups in the reverse. So the Star is about hope. It's also about a wish. It's about healing. So this is certainly, in the future, looking, and you can see how she's connected. She's got a string connecting her to the sort of cosmos, so it's sort of like tapping into your own divinity, tapping into the source of creation within you, and like very much about manifestation. I feel this one as well. Not necessarily just kind of manifesting from your own perspective, but manifesting from the perspective of the cosmos. So kind of almost seeking the support of heaven and the, spirit guides and ancestors and those who kind of walk with us to find our path, I think. And we do have some difficult cards, unfortunately, here as well. So we have the Eight of Wands in the reverse. So the Eight of Wands in reverse is about, in the upright, is about quick communication and swift movement. In the reverse is almost like a kind of sense of like either a stagnancy or a lack of movement in a particular situation. We have a Ten of Swords, which is anxiety. Although this one is almost kind of like a Ten of Swords in reverse. So it's kind of letting go of the anxious kind of feelings and sort of looking to a time when there is a kind of like freedom of mind, letting the thoughts that had been crowding in around you kind of free themselves up. So in a situation that maybe this situation, there was not kind of any closure in the past. There wasn't any sort of final communication to sort of like close everything off. You had to achieve this closure for yourself, and that's why there's this kind of sense of being in between two worlds. And maybe what you had done before was like a bit more conventional, and therefore you're looking for something a bit more unconventional in the way that you pursue your goals, in the way that you pursue what makes you happy now. We have the Queen of Cups in the reverse, which is almost like kind of unstable emotions or too much emotions, becoming submersed in the water of the emotions. So I think, trying to maintain hope. I think what the cards are suggesting is that it's important for you to maintain hope that what is happening is for the greater good, even though it may not seem that things are happening very quickly, but now is a time where your mind is clearing itself from the kind of the emotions of the past, the stagnant emotions of the past. The Two of Swords did kind of come out, it sort of flipped sideways. So I think there is still an aspect of dealing with these thoughts from the past. See, the crows are kind of like attacking her. But they're kind of also pulling these strings, so I mean, it looks like they're attacking her, so these thoughts are almost sort of attacking her mind, but her face doesn't actually look very concerned. It almost looks like she's about to sort of whip the blindfold off. And maybe the crows are almost kind of helping her, so it's almost sort of like your thoughts can either help or hinder you in this process. And if you take the meditative stance, think of the Queen of Cups in the upright. She's very meditative here. She's sort of like basking in the emotions that she's experiencing, even in a situation where there doesn't seem to be this sort of swift movement. And this is quite a meditative card, this Ten of Swords. She's really just watching these thoughts sort of as they pass by. And the star is very meditative as well here. She's just sort of like wishing on a star, or dreaming on a star, or meditating upon a star. So I think this is about manifestation as well. And in order to be able to manifest, you must let go of these thoughts which hold you back, and the feeling of stagnancy, because the only reason stagnancy exists is because it exists in the mind. If you can move forward with how you perceive your thoughts, then you can move forward, and be confident that, you know, when your heart is weighed with the feather, that it will come out just as light. And so in order to do so, you do need to let go of the things that have held you back. So we have time to go in the reverse. And so this is really saying, I think, that you've felt that it's difficult to let go of something, maybe. And that even though that you know it's the time to go, it's still been difficult for you to let go of this regret and the hurt and the feeling of in not having enough strength to kind of carry on. The feeling of things not being over. But let's read from the book, because it's always more eloquent than I can conjure up with my words. So yeah, the essential meanings of this card are the endings, completion, walking away from something because there's nothing else to learn or experience. Yeah, which is exactly what we've been talking about. Even if it appears that you've reached the end of the line and all is lost, it isn't. You're in a situation that will resurface again later, so consider this a break rather than an ending. Destiny is in charge here. You lose nothing and gain everything when you surrender to that fact. Your soul knows that your destiny is unfolding with perfect timing and synchronicity. Your small self has doubts, but that's natural, as it doesn't have the map of your destiny. The soul does. Spirit loves you. Trust that. So yes, I think this is very much about bringing your attention to how your mind is operating with respect to these past memories, your present situation, and what you want for the future. And to bring yourself into a meditative space, maybe use journaling as an active tool to bring you out of this and to step into your new world, which will be just, fair, and honourable, of course. Hope this was helpful, Aquarius, and I will see you next time.